Yeah. Listen. They call me Mr. Divine.
What's up, guys? I'm from Champion Culture here, coming with a book review here. First book we decided to do was Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Peter Drucker, he was an educator and author from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He's still writing books here. He actually wrote a book for Harvard Business Review. Anyone who's trying to start their own business or trying to find out like a good career for them and need career advice or business advice, entrepreneurs as well, I probably read every single Harvard Business Review book you can get your hands on. They're not expensive and they're all short. You can literally finish them in a couple hours. I decided to do Managing Oneself because I find it to be sort of the mecca of finding your passion or finding the right career for you. So I'm just going to go over some of my favorite quotes from the book and some takeaways. So quote number one is, one should waste little time on weaknesses. Kind of shocked me when I first read it as well, because I know anytime we feel that we're weak at something or we're not good at something, we want to spend countless hours at being great at it or being good at it or at least being average at it so we don't have that glaring weakness. What Peter Drucker says is, if you spend all those hours working on something that you're not very good at, then what you're actually doing is taking away those hours that you could be working towards something that you're already decent or good at. So essentially what he's sort of saying is pick up one skill that you could be really great at. So don't worry about what you're bad at, or don't worry about where your strengths or where your weaknesses don't lie. Focus on your strengths and sort of double up on your strengths. So for me, for example, I'm fucking terrible at volleyball. Can't play volleyball to save my life. I'm not gonna go spend 6-8 hours a day trying to get decent at volleyball. If I'm already a good basketball player, I'd rather spend those 6-8 hours focusing my efforts there, because then maybe one day I get the potential to be like a great basketball player or coach or whatever. So essentially what he's saying is double down on your strengths and disregard your weaknesses. And the second quote that he says is to ask yourself, how do I learn? Am I a reader? Am I a listener? Or do I learn by doing things? This is pretty important as well, because as soon as you sort of, step one is to figure out what you're good at, right? And once we've done that, you need to figure out how you can get really good at that. So are you gonna do it through maybe, so I'll go back to my example on sports. Are you gonna be doing that through practicing the sport a lot, maybe watching a lot of game tape, listening to podcasts, reading analysis, stats and stuff like that? Me personally, I learn best through sort of listening to other people talk to me, so like lectures, seminars, conferences and stuff like that. What I would do is sort of experiment with all three, find out where you see the best results, and once you figure out what your best lane is, stick to it. If you're, for example, a reader, buy every book you can read on that topic. You know, don't worry about going to conferences or don't worry about listening to audiobooks if you're not somebody who learns through listening. Just focus on reading and focus again on your learning strength as well. You'll see that sort of everything comes back to making sure that you focus on your strengths. And the third favorite quote here, probably the most important quote that I read, he says word for word, don't change yourself because you're unlikely to succeed. This is pretty important. Knowing yourself and knowing exactly who you are and what your values are is probably the single most important thing in trying to find a career or trying to find a job that suits you. I'll give myself for an example. I used to work at banks and I couldn't stand it because I know pretty much everything banks were doing was sort of against my values. It was profit, 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 and customer concerns or customer relations second. And it didn't sit well with me. Every day I dreaded going to work, So make sure you understand where your values are. Don't change your values, don't change yourself, and just make sure that you can see yourself in a position where you're sort of proud to say what you do. And the last quote here is pretty much saying, where can I not see myself? So as soon as you figure out your strengths and stuff like that, you also need to find out shit you don't like, shit you don't mess with, or anything like that. I used my example as a bank just now. There were so many things I didn't like about working at a bank. I didn't like the whole suits and ties. I didn't like the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I didn't like all the protocols and compliance regulatory rules and shit that you had to go through. So many people say, oh, how do I find my passion? Or how do I find what I want to do for the rest of my life? Well, most people already have a really good head start and don't even realize it. If you just sit with a pen and paper and write down everything you don't like about your current job or any of your previous jobs, imagine how many jobs you can eliminate or how many career paths you can eliminate right there, just by shit you don't like. And eventually you'll probably have like a few left of available opportunities, and then you gotta fit something that sort of plays to your strengths and plays towards your learning abilities as well. So write down everything you don't like, find out stuff you don't like, and make sure you don't settle for that. Settle for something that honestly makes you feel better. And that's pretty much it for this book review, guys. It wasn't gonna be a long one. It's only gonna be 2 or 3 minutes because this book, I think in total it's like, it's 52 pages. Yeah, it's 60 pages on the dot. So it's gonna, I mean, I would buy this book right now. I think it's like $9 on Kindle. Go ahead and grab it. Again, I'm Ahmed from Champion Culture, guys. We'll have a couple more book reviews coming up in the next couple weeks or so. Take care.
What can I say? I'm still breathing.
It's kind of underrated if you ask me.
Every evening,
Let's go.
so we just gonna stay.